I thought our last discussion was so good, was so good, and I don't know. I think like we come from like I don't see many others out there who sort of have our backgrounds and have our sort of take on things. I don't know. I don't know what you think. So, but because I listened to it back, which I don't know if that's weird or not, but I thought it was really good when I listened to it back. I was like, man, that's actually some interesting stuff. Like we're actually adding some value here.
It's funny because I have the same reaction that when we're kind of in the moment talking, a
Yeah.
lot of times by the time we finish, I really can't remember like all the stuff we talked about. And when I go back and listen to it, it's like you get it with a fresh perspective.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm, mm.
and yeah, I gotta say, it sounds weird to say, but I enjoyed, just as a, kind of a spectator listening to it,
Yeah.
because it definitely raised a bunch of questions. And as I say, we didn't get to some things last week that
Mm,
I think are pretty important. And so as I was listening to it, I was thinking, okay, here are some other ideas I have for other things that I want to talk
mm.
about the next time we chat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Got a good reaction from a lot of folks, and so as I
Mm.
say, I always enjoy these conversations. So it's kind of neat letting other people in on them.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. There's this whole big trend of vibe coding out there, and I just love the idea of vibe casting. It's actually like a mentality thing because, when you like run your own business or you're like in your career, like even just like if you're working in a larger business or in a business, um, things can get like quite structured and you got to follow this path, you got to do this, you got to do this. And honestly, I enjoy like being entrepreneurial and doing my own thing when I'm just like doing what I like and saying what I like. And I've done the uh I've done the sort of set format podcast before, and I just don't want to do it anymore. It doesn't sort of like get me excited. So this format, just chatting away and just talking about what we think, what we see, I just much prefer it, honestly.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun. It's funny, the whole vibe coding thing that I loved. Did you see the tweet that Andre Karpathy had that kind of coined the phrase and he talked about kind of how he did it of just
Yep.
like sitting on the couch and just like punching the error messages back into
Yeah.
the AI and not even reading them. It was funny because I've been in that mode before where I just want to kind of crank it as fast as I can. And
Yeah.
it was just for somebody of his stature to say, that he does the same thing was funny to hear.
Yeah, well, he's the one that sort of termed it. I think a lot of people were doing that, and then
Yeah.
he's got a lot of street cred out there in the community, and so he sort of termed it. But it's taken a complete life of its own online. I don't know if you've seen like both
Yeah.
sides of it. There's like extremes now. Like some people are just avid vibe coders. Real developers hate vibe coders. I mean, there's just this absolute extremes out there. Just like anything, it can only get you so far. Like I do it sometimes. I actually do it a lot when I'm sort of starting to build something. It's actually fun. Like you just don't overthink it. You just like let the AI come up with something cool, and then obviously you got to go and refine it later. But it can get you so far with so many things, like particularly development, which I've been quite heavy into. But it's
I
really
think there's a
anything.
lot of gatekeeping, that
Oh
I
my
think
God,
as
don't
as
get me started.
people as people get nervous about the encroachment of AI on their area of expertise, I
Yeah,
think there's a lot of, kind of, well, this is for professionals only, kind of
yeah,
don't try this at home.
mm,
And it's interesting to hear there was a Reddit thread that I sent you that I thought was really pretty fascinating, that it was somebody saying, oh my God, there's going to be this influx of terrible software and no security, and this is going to be
yeah,
awful, and kind of predicting gloom and doom. And it was really interesting the number of real experienced software developers who came back at him and said, hey, that's not true. That kind of through the history of software development, there's always been things that have made coding easier, and that's improved coding and the number of people building apps, not not decreased it. And that he also there was somebody else who raised the point who said, look, I'm not expecting people, to vibe code firmware for pacemakers. It's like you have to recognize that a lot of the apps that are being created are not anything critical, but they're just useful for, particular context. And I think that's what you and I are building, is just things that we personally find useful that, we're eager to share.
Yeah.
But it does seem that there's kind of this somewhat hysterical gatekeeping around this.
Ugh. I mean, don't even get me started. I mean, I really think about my information diet sometimes when I see these things because, I'm doing one thing and I'm seeing this sort of like revolution going on, right? And then I go on social media and more so LinkedIn than anything, and I see so many people talking it down and saying it's not a big deal and saying, oh no, you can't be a proper dev because you don't know anything about security or you don't know anything about this. I just actually shake my head and I think, it's basically like you and me saying no one should create a Power BI report because they don't know what a relationship is. Like it's absolutely stupid. Not every piece of software needs to be this incredible application that has every bell and whistle in it. Like it's not like everyone's trying to build Salesforce. Like
Right.
you can build any type of app that you want, like, and it's real. It's real. Up, you know, look, the problem is on social media, both sides of this debate get pushed. Like that, it's just like, everyone said that everyone knows that politics is like political views are like all on the extreme on social media, but it's actually everything is on the extreme in social media. Like
Yeah.
even views on coding and development and AI, they're all the extremes. It's either hype or it's like this is no good, where it's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in the middle. I think that it's good to recognize that. Like I really do. I really do. But yeah, that obviously because I'm quite deep in it at the moment, that debate of, you know, I actually don't believe the hype as well. There's a lot of these AI, see, like the head of Anthropic came out and he said, oh, 90% of code is going to be done by
I
AI by the
saw
end of
that.
the year. And I'm like, I'm using these things. I'm going, there's no way that is going to be true. Like these things can't even listen to you for like three queries in a row. So they're amazing, but there's just absolutely no way that that is going to happen. I just cannot see it. I cannot see it. I mean, I could be wrong, but I cannot see it at the moment. But on the flip side, I also just totally disagree with people saying, no, you can't build amazing things with these AIs because like you can build some cool stuff. Like I mean, I'm doing it. I'm amazed at
Right.
what I can achieve. Like, so anyway, there's a bit of a rant, but, um, yeah, I guess this is my outlet now where I can get my rants out.
It's funny because I remember a friend of mine had a tagline on his email that said, people who say it can't be done shouldn't interrupt those people who are doing it.
Oh,
And,
totally. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
I feel like there's a lot of that, as you say, the extremes are what play out, which is either that, you know,
Mm,
this isn't a big deal and it's all overhyped and,
mm.
AI is just, undependable and hallucinatory. And then on the other side, I see, this is the year of the agent and agents can,
Yeah,
do everything. And it's like, no, they can't, or at least
yeah,
not yet. It's like
yeah.
I see promise in it, but that's one of those things that I'm probably on, the more skeptical side, which is that, I just haven't yet. I don't have access to Manus yet. I don't know if you do,
No,
but
I've tried, but yeah,
yeah,
this.
me too.
I mean, there's a lot of hype about it online, so who knows? But I've got to try it. I've got to try it.
But from the people I've seen who do have access, it's like even there, there's a real range of thought, which is that it's like everybody says it's promising and it's an interesting attempt, but a lot of
Mm,
what I've seen says, it's still not there yet.
mm, mm.
It still requires a lot of oversight, a lot of intervention, and even in the places where you've got it kind of semi-autonomous, it's not coming back with always with quality results.
Yeah. Well, we discussed this last time. How I was talking about Claude 3.7 and a lot of these like coding tools. look, it is amazing. It is amazing. Like you can do some cool stuff, but they go absolutely off the rails. They go off the rails, and there is a, potential to waste more time because they just don't do what you ask versus actually helping. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I can see it. I can see how it could, but they're not there yet. None of these things are there yet. I still use them. I still use Claude 3.7. I still use it. It's good for um, vibing while you're coding, like it is. But if you want to do like very specific changes and you want to like really control, it's actually quite hard to control. Like that is what I'm finding. It's really good at being creative and coming up with things, but actually controlling it to do exactly what you want is just a really short sprint to frustration. Like that's what I'm finding in the development world anyway.
It's funny. I did a video on this just this week about kind of building and managing your model team.
Yeah.
And what I said in that was that it's really like if you're a team lead or a manager, division chief or something, you want to build a human staff, you need people with like different skills and complementary abilities. And it's the exact same thing with models that, Claude, I love Claude 3.7, that it's definitely become the workhorse of my AI team, but it does definitely go off the rails. That I think it overcomplicates coding a lot of times, and it will get stuck in a ditch and just kind of spin on the same mistake for a while. And so what I found is that O1 Pro, which I don't like as much as Claude, but is a really good disciplined responder in terms of simplifying code. And a lot of times what I do is I let Claude go, and then when Claude spins off into a ditch, I
Mm,
take what Claude's done and
mm,
feed it to O1 Pro and say simplify and debug this. And it's really amazing how often it kind of pulls Claude out of the weeds, and I can continue on in a productive way, either with O1 Pro or with, kind of send it back to Claude.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I found that it's just like people. You've got somebody who's like super creative, but they tend to kind of go off off track. And
Mm,
you've
mm.
got other people who are kind of more literal, and maybe aren't going to generate the incredible project that the really creative person is, but they're going to stay on task. And
Yeah.
I feel like models are exactly the same way, that the more I work with them, the more I realize it's so similar to managing people.
It is. It is. And it's hard work. It's hard
Yeah.
work. Like managing people. Um, oh man, I get frustrated with these things. I really do. I'm learning a ton, but man, I get frustrated. Just a bit of irony for you about this whole sort of you know, gatekeeping of, the old way of like developing, right? Is the same people who are saying you can't build great software with AI. I mean, they seem to be a bit delusional to think that the most like all human software is incredible. Like I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre that someone would think that, right? Yes, not all AI software is going to be absolutely perfect and amazing, but do you really, really, really think that all human software that you've ever used is perfect and is amazing? Like, it's not. It's absolutely not. I mean, have they even used some of the initial stuff that Microsoft put out? Like Microsoft technology falls over all the time, and this is the biggest tech company in the world. So like, it's just delusional thinking in my view. I mean, you don't want to be too negative about it, but like, man, if the tool comes out that enables you to do stuff that you never were able to do before, I mean, that is cool, man. Like, I don't know why anyone would be against that. Like, I just think it's awesome, empowering so many more millions of people to do this. It's like us. Like we learned Power BI, and we're like, no, no one else can do Power BI because they don't do it right. They don't build a perfect DAX formula. They don't build a perfect model. It's basically like us saying that. Like it's ridiculous, so ridiculous.
Well, and Power BI is a great example because we're, kind of the mindset that if you're going to do it code right, you
Mm,
build the star schema, you invest in your data modeling first, and you you kind of have a progression, but I know Microsoft actually monitors this in terms of kind of what your data sources are, and
Mm.
they know kind of who's pulling in what, and supposedly 75% or more of people who are building Power BI models are building them on flat files. And
Wow.
that to me is fascinating, because it's not the best way to do it by any stretch. But my feeling is, hey, if that works for you, and you're getting what you need out of that, knock yourself out. That
Totally true. You know why that? You know why that actually works? You know why that works is because it's because not all data is big data. If you go on LinkedIn for a period of time and you listen to a lot of like data influencers, let's just call it that. Are we data influencers? I don't know. Maybe.
I hope
You,
not.
you certainly are. You certainly are.
I definitely I reject that title.
Anyway, there's certainly ways of doing things, right? But that's because but all data is different. Like I would say the majority of data out there, right, is just small. It's just small. It's like
Yeah.
less than 10,000 rows. It's, and Power BI can just eat that for lunch, so who cares if you've got like a 30 column table realistically, it might not be perfect. Yes. And you could improve it, but yeah, if it gets the job done, man, who cares?
I remember doing a poll on this a while back, and I think it was approximately three-quarters of people who responded said the vast majority of their data is under 100,000 rows.
Yep.
Um,
Totally.
and I think, it kind of gets back to kind of who is using these tools. Then I think, Power BI has kind of got this kind of split personality, because you've got, and Greg has talked about this a lot, that you've
Yeah.
got the business users and you've got the IT users.
Yeah.
And, the latter are kind of often the ones with, the 50 million records or billion records. And,
Mhm.
it's the business user who are pulling in, CSV file of 50,000 sales. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, one of the things I love about Power BI is it's kind of catered to both sides. I think they're doing that less well these days, but I think
Yeah.
kind of in the heyday, I think they met both groups kind of where they were.
Yeah. I'm not sure we want to launch into a fabric bashing, but yeah,
No,
but yeah, I mean, I reckon, like I've stated this publicly online, like the vast majority of Power BI success was because they empowered all the people who just like used to use Excel, and
right.
that's actually the majority of Power BI users by a long shot. But they've gone in a totally opposite direction, which is kind of sad. But decision by a big company, that's how they've got to make choices based on their own needs. So just how it is, but it's going to change again. It's going to change again. Like I mean, we probably like both agree of this, right? Like analytics is going through a transformation again. Like it's going to become probably slowly at first, but then quite quickly API driven. Like I think a lot of analytics is going to be API workloads. Just getting code and visuals out of Claude or ChatGPT or Google or Gemini, whatever.
It was interesting. I was thinking about kind of what I've learned and what I've been focusing on since we talked a couple of weeks ago. And the
Mm.
biggest thing for me is OpenRouter.
Yeah, I see
And
that.
so, I built an app that kind of worked out of Power Query. It was kind of a natural language data cleaning tool.
Mhm.
And I built kind of three versions of it. One was on the OpenAI API, one was on Anthropic, and one was on Perplexity. And
Yeah.
somebody came back to me, in the comments and said, "Hey, why didn't you just build this on OpenRouter?" And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And so, I went back and did some research, and he was absolutely right. I mean, that it was the perfect way to build it, because instead of subscribing to, all these different things like that you and I both do, what you get is you just buy credits and you use them you use them kind of as needed. And so I bought like $10 worth of credits, and in 2 weeks I spent $1.91. And I was just hammering this thing, for days on end. And
Yeah.
some of the models like DeepSeek R1 and the Gemini Flash models are
Mm.
so cheap that you actually do it run after run after run, and they don't even accrue to a penny.
Mm.
So the Flash models in particular are unbelievably cheap. And so
Oh yeah, I'll tell you a story
the
about
other
that.
thing
Yeah.
that's really cool is you can run multiple models at the same time. So if you're testing,
Mhm.
response time, or you're testing ability to solve, complex problems, you can
Mm.
line up, the Grok, the
Mm.
Anthropic, the OpenAI,
Mm.
Perplexity, the DeepSeek models, all in a row and throw it the same information and see how they do. And
And
you know,
so is it one API call and then you just
it's
change like
one API call.
okay. And is there any difference in because when I looked at that I thought, well, aren't I going to get a faster response if I just go straight to OpenAI or straight to Claude? But you don't think there's any latency in response time, even though
I
they're sort
haven't
of
seen
forcing it.
I haven't seen it. And the amazing thing is, that in the programming, it's the exact same API call. And so all you have to do is you get
Mm.
one API key. You don't have
Mm.
to have multiple API keys for different
Mm.
models, and you just basically select the model you want. And so what
Mm.
I've got is there's a query you can do, and I think I posted it online to my GitHub gist of
Mm.
it'll automatically pull a table of all the models that they've currently got. And so you can just, set it up, you can parameterize the API call and just, I've been playing with all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I've seen it online because they put out stats on which API is being called the most through their system. So
Right.
that's how I know about it, but I haven't actually used it. But that makes
Oh,
sense
you'll
because
love it. You should definitely
yeah,
check it out.
I'll give it a try because you're right. Like sometimes, like when I'm building stuff, like I've built a few things and I've got on one of my things, I've got 15 AI calls happening at one time through 15 different functions. I've built my Power BI called Power Vibes. I've been building that the last couple of days, spent some time on that. I've got 20 things happening all at once there. And but to think like to change it all over to try out a different model, I've got to go and change 20 code files. And yesterday I was doing and I was like, oh God, this is just going to be so painful. So I think I need a better solution, particularly if you're actually running a lot of automations at the same time. So you almost have like a parameter. You have a parameter that you feed into all of the different function files, like calling the APIs.
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
you just change that one parameter once and it just flows through all
Yeah,
your code.
I'm gonna
And
have
the
to do that.
the the costs are so incredibly cheap. I mean, the one thing you want to avoid is 4.5. 4.5 will drain your account. Everything
Um,
else is really, the only thing it doesn't have is O1 Pro. If it had O1 Pro, I would nuke
yes.
my $200 a month subscription immediately.
There's a reason why they're not giving away O1 Pro. I think that it is like an exceptional model. There is an obvious reason why they're not giving it away because they don't want people to sort of steal whatever you know juice they've like juice they've got inside of it. Yeah, O1 Pro is amazing. It is any hard technical coding question that the AI models are not getting right for a period of time. I just send it straight into O1 Pro and it usually gives me a solution straight away. It's amazing.
What's your
Amazing.
what's your workhorse model? What's your default model when you vibe code?
I've been flicking because when I'm just sort of building prototypes, I'm just using like 4.0 mini just to build the prototype, and then I might switch it to O3 mini or something like that. There's a lot of trade-offs. I'm obviously just learning a ton, right? O3 mini is the best and quickest model currently available in the API, but its formatting that it throws out on its output is horrific and it changes all the time and it changes all the time. And so we used to have it inside of Mentor, and one day it would work, the next day it wouldn't work, and I was telling my developers, guys, we've got to solve this. It's just pointless having a model that doesn't put out good like formatted content, and we've given up. We've given up. We're just like turned it off for now because it's too unreliable in that sense. So you know that's annoying. That's annoying. Like, how am I meant to build an app if I can't even guarantee what sort of format comes out? I'll tell you the other story. So I built this Power Vibes is sort of my prototype app that I'm trying to build to help Power BI development. I've got distracted the last couple of weeks a little bit, but I've got into it the last couple of days. So I'm using Gemini actually, just a Gemini Flash for this. And when you sign up for Gemini, you get like $600 worth of free credits over like 2 months. I've been using Gemini for, I don't know, 2 weeks, and I literally have 20 automations running. Like I have 20 automations. I'm up to 79 cents. 79
Yeah.
cents. I can't even use this thing enough. I mean, honestly, I need to have like hundreds of all of these automations going at once. Like it's just so cheap. I mean, I will say that the output, like particularly on DAX formulas of this thing, is not that good. Like I'll have to show you actually. I have to show you sort of where we're up to. But I feed in the metadata. I build a really solid outline of the model, so it has all the context. I feed that model into Gemini about 10 times for DAX formulas, and we have all these different categories of DAX formulas. I mean, it's pretty cool watching it all happen. But then I look through and I think, oh, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. So I need some other mechanism to go look over it to check it again. Maybe R1 or something like that. I'm not sure. I haven't solved it yet. I haven't solved it. But I don't think there's any benefit in putting out a product and then having all these errors and formulas. It needs to be as close to right as possible.
I mean, R1, my testing R1 for DAX and M code is by far the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it can solve problems that
Mm,
nothing else can. One of the things that I did want to talk to you about was and you kind of brought it up with Flash
mm,
is when OpenAI first released ChatGPT, I thought, okay, Google is going to be right there, because they already had DeepMind, they'd done, AlphaGo, they had really got some impressive, AI minds, working for them, and they've got,
mm,
kind of huge resources, and I thought they were going to be the powerhouse, and
mm,
wow, were they disappointing out of the gate? It's like most of those models just sucked, and
mm,
yeah, I didn't use any of them because they just
mm,
they just weren't good. And
mm,
I kind of feel like Google has kind of gotten their mojo back. That
mm,
Notebook LM was probably the turning point,
mm,
that that was the first time I think a lot of us in the user community said, oh, hey, this is a good product.
mm,
And I've kind of seen since then it's like AI Studio, the Flash models, the Gemini 2.0,
mm.
it's good stuff, and I had kind of ridden them off a bit, and I'm kind of back on the wagon now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think both of us have gone through, um, have evolved in our thinking a little bit. Like, there was a point where you'd think, oh, this tech firm's in trouble, this tech firm's in trouble. But when you really think about it for long enough, you realize these big tech firms just have so much, like the distribution that they have is just so significant. All they need to do is build one good thing and they can distribute it across billions of people. Like
Yeah.
same for Google, same for Microsoft, same for Apple, same for Amazon, Amazon like going to release their, they've probably lost money for 10 years on their Alexa, but like all of a sudden that could become, one of their like an incredibly profitable business, right? They just turn on an AI assistant, boom, there you go. So distribution is just so strong for these guys. Like, I've even at a time thought, and I still kind of do, like a lot of Microsoft's legacy software, like spreadsheets and Power BI and a few things. Like, there's some other solutions popping up around them that are probably better. They can enable you to do better stuff, but their distribution is so strong. It's so strong. So many businesses will just not never leave Microsoft. They'll never consider anything else other than Microsoft. And all Microsoft have to do is actually see a good product out there, somewhat replicate it, distribute it through all of their different channels, and boom, a huge business right there. So distribution is so big in this game, and Google has it in spades, right? So yes, they were behind, but they can come back. They can build as good a model or as like almost as good, and they'll win with just their distribution.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we talked about last time, that your point about, there's no software lock-in in AI, that you can just
Yeah.
switch, like that. And so,
Mhm.
I kind of feel like I have no allegiance to anybody, because it's kind of like, what's the best thing out there, for, and, kind of getting back to that, that point about, kind of teams of models, that when I did the video, it was like I am actually now using 9 models regularly. They're just good at different things. And so
Yeah.
if somebody says, why don't you just use the best model? It's like, why don't you just drive the best car? It depends. Are you hauling, 5 kids to soccer practice, or are you
You're like
enjoying
me.
driving, on a nice day on a mountain road? It's like,
Yeah. You're like me driving 4 kids around in a Kia Carnival.
right. Yeah, and so there really is, there's no such thing as the best model anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good point. Like, it honestly does not help by what some of the sort of like leaders in AI say. But, I really just think this concept of AGI is just a bunch of BS. Like, these things will get better, I'm sure. But the whole concept of AGI, I just don't even think it means anything. I really don't. I really don't. Like, these models are just a powerful computer. Like, it's better just to think of them as a powerful computer, a new form of computing, you know? Like a new operating system like Windows, but there's a lot more of them, you know? Um, there'll be some that are good at some things, some that'll be not as good at other things. And I just don't see that changing anytime soon from what I'm seeing. Like, there's going to be a massive market for this more powerful computing. So there's going to be a lot of winners. I think there could be 20 models, 50 models. I don't know. Like, I don't even think that that even, the top models will own the whole market. Like, I think it's a very distributed, situation. It will play out in a very distributed way. There'll be lots of winners because the market will just be so big. Like, just think about it. How big is the market for intelligence? I mean, it's
Right.
almost unlimited, right? It's almost unlimited.
Yeah, and it's like you look at Chat GPT when it's like it was like in terms of speed to 1 million users, speed to 100 million users,
Yeah.
by far the fastest app ever. And so as you say, the market is huge, and I kind of feel the same way about AGI. It's like it's almost gotten down to this metaphysical debate. When are we going to hit AGI, and what does it mean? And yeah, to me,
We're
it's just
already we're already there. I mean, we're already like I don't know. I don't even know what definition actually matters. But like, these models like know everything already, right? Like, we're already there. They can talk to you. They can. I mean, have you seen some of the robot videos lately? Oh my
oh,
God, it's
I saw
unbelievable.
one the other day that they've trained to do kung fu, and it like operates at like kind of a high intermediate level. And I'm just thinking, oh, that's not going to end well. But the interesting thing is, that I think Anthropic did this really interesting study that you probably saw, where they can tell what people are doing, you know, through kind of their monitoring of the model usage.
Mm, mm,
And
mm.
they came out with this distribution of, what are people doing with the AI models? And, it was dominated by, coding,
Mm,
coding
mm.
and software development. And so you could really see there was some writing, there was some project, product management, but you could really see that, in some sense, I think we are getting a distorted view of, data analysis was pretty high up.
Mm.
I think we're getting a distorted view of how widespread this is. And so when we talk about AGI, it's like you know I look and say, okay, it can write DAX better than anybody now. Or the people that can't write DAX better than it can write as well and 100 times faster.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, is that AGI? Well, probably so in that limited sphere. But you
Mm.
look at kind of how it's not really spreading yet to kind of a whole bunch of other disciplines and
Totally.
domains. And there's still, I think, a long way to go for the people who are saying AGI is when it's going to be you know able to do kind of all knowledge-based human work better than people. And I think we're still a good ways away from that.
I mean, it's hard to imagine what that even looks like. I mean, but I mean, I don't, I, I mean, some reports I see it's coming by the end of this year, and I'm just like, how? I mean, I can't even get these things to listen to me for three conversation queries in a row. Like, you're telling me that this is going to be like some all almighty thing that will just take over everything. Like, I mean, I don't see it. I personally don't see it. I think it's amazing, but I don't. I just like the whole debate is just. I just means nothing to me. It means it just means
Yeah.
nothing. You know, like I'm on the weekend. I'm catching up with a couple of mates. None of them even use AI. They don't even know why it would help them and what they're doing. You know, one's in property, one's got his in a consumer business. Yeah, I mean, this is AGI will revive, and that's not going to change tomorrow. Not at all. It's the tools, it's all about the tools, right? Like that's what I'm seeing. It's about that's why I think this is the biggest opportunity I've ever seen is in building tools with these AI software things. I saw a really good quote on social media the other day. We haven't even come close to saturating the market with software. That is so true. Like you can build so much software just to help you with anything. Like I was even thinking the other day, like I know how you have a really strong view on that AI is going to um it's going to enable a lot of people to do a lot of terrible analysis, right? So
I
true.
mean, it's a little bit of gatekeeping. I'll admit to it.
But it is true. It's making a lot of people make crap software too. But not all as we say, like not all reports need to be amazing, not all software needs to be amazing. It's all good. There's a whole spectrum of things.
Well,
But
I think there's a sense of know your limits, that I'm
yeah,
not going to program, software for airport security. It's
sure.
like,
Yeah.
and I think the same thing is true with analysis. It's like if you're a data analyst and you don't have a solid grounding in statistics,
Mm,
hopefully you've got enough sense that you're not going to try to build complex machine learning models,
sure.
and so, I think there's some level of responsibility on the part of the user not to kind of outstrip their own knowledge. And
Yep.
I'm definitely mindful of that, in software that I don't know a damn thing about security. And so,
Sure.
I'm not gonna push anything out there that, is going to be acting on any sort of sensitive data.
True. And then this is my point about software, right? Every one of those examples is just opening up an entirely new market for additional software to help you, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
if you're trying to become an analyst and you're new to it and you want to get better, wouldn't it be incredible to have some sort of immersive experience, learning experience while you're building to help you learn how to do those more advanced statistical analysis, help you learn to create the right data model or something, right? So that's an incredible opportunity for new software that wasn't possible before because those with like yourself, those with a lot of knowledge in this area was harder to create the software, like because you needed to be a coder and stuff like that. It's exactly the same in this new dev market, and why I think the smart people are looking at a lot of these novice devs. Like, I mean, I'm trying to be smart here. I'm trying to look at. There's a lot of posts that are going, oh, I didn't use GitHub. I didn't do branch. I didn't create any backups of my apps, and I've lost 4 months of work. You just hear all this stuff, and you're like, it's just basic stuff, basic development stuff, and then a lot of people dunk on them online. Oh, this is vibe coding at its worst, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm looking at it going, man, this is the biggest opportunity I've ever seen to build new software. Like as like enterprise DNA, I'm like, we need to be empowering this. We need to build software. We need to change up how people learn. People want to learn while they're doing.
Right.
This is what's happening, right? They want to learn while they're actually building. I mean, I'm a perfect example of this. I want to learn how to code while I'm coding with AI. Like that is me, right? And and so there's this new ecosystem of opportunities to build stuff around that. And that's why I think that we are not even close to saturation in building software, right? Because a lot of people are going to do a lot of new things, and there's a lot of empowerment to go on, whether it's a tool to do it quicker or in a different way, or to educate based on old existing tool sets. It just goes on and on and on. That's why I'm really positive and big on an abundance of opportunity in this area.
Well, I mean, your point about learn by doing is great because it's like if you think back to like what we were doing a few years ago with Power BI, it
Mm,
was like, trying to give, good, solid baseline instruction, but really encouraging people to get out there, start building reports,
yep.
start, start participating in challenges, start doing, because if you just watch, you know, I've always thought that there was this paradox that the more talented and skilled the person you're watching, the easier it is to think you understand what they're saying. Because
Mm.
it's like, well, that makes perfect sense as you're just sitting watching it. But then you
Yeah.
sit in front of a computer and try to do it, and you're like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And it's not until you try to apply that knowledge that for me at least, that it really sticks. And
Mm.
so, this idea that you can jump right in and try this stuff and experiment,
Mm.
to me is like it kind of reinforces not the bad aspect of it, but the great aspect of learning, which is learned by doing.
Yeah. I just see a huge market with the vibe coders, for lack of a better term. Like I believe there's going to be in the next 5, 7 years, 100 million more developers. Like I really believe that. Like, I've been, that is not even hype from my perspective. Like that is reality. Huge market. But there is a severe lack of learning going on with this market. Like they're all just vibe coding and coming into errors and don't know where to go. They can't go online because people dunk on them for being stupid. And they can't go on Stack Overflow because all the devs there think
Oh,
they're
that
stupid.
that's the place to get dunked on.
Yeah, they go to Reddit, same thing. It's just so imagine an immersive experience while you're using these tools. Like that is what I want to build. Like that is actually I've already talked to my developers and been like, I want this. I want this. I want to learn how to do all these like quite technical things. Let's try and make it as easy and intuitive as possible. It's a huge market. It's a huge market. Like there's a lot of people who need this and they will be willing to pay you 10, 15, $20 a month to learn while they're actually coding. Like while they're actually coding. The more I use these AI coders, the more I want to learn how to code. Like I think I've told you this before, but like that's just what happens. So there needs to be anyway. Like it's just an opportunity. It's a massive opportunity. You still got to execute, but there's a big number of people who need help in this area.
Your point about kind of getting dunked on in public.
Mm,
One of the things that I will definitely shout out is LinkedIn, for some of the things, that about the platform I don't love. The community is amazing. And if you are kind of sincere and, kind of interested and engaged, I post stuff all the time that's kind of half baked, that it's projects I'm working on, ideas I've got. And,
mm,
I did this post last week about, kind of magical elves that, it's amazing that I'll post something at night and, I don't sleep very well. So I post a lot of times in the middle of the night and
mm,
I'll finally fall asleep and I'll wake up and the contributions of the community is amazing. The people, the OpenRouter was, just one example, but every time I've, kind of thrown out some half-baked idea, I get just really brilliant people from like all around the world, like, saying, well, have you tried this? Or, I've taken your idea and I've done this with it. And,
mm, mm,
it's really pretty phenomenal. Unlike Twitter or Stack Overflow, where you do get dunked on,
mm,
the LinkedIn community is really, I found to be incredibly welcoming and, kind of really open to that sort of kind of build in public and improve on others' ideas and, do so in a
mm,
constructive way. So, yeah, I definitely want to shout that out because I think, for
mm.
people who are hesitant to participate in that sort of community, I think it's the best one I've found.
Mm. Well, I think you definitely get that because you've given so much away. You've given so much knowledge away over time. So yeah, not surprising, not surprising at all. Look, I feel it's a bit bipolar. Some like my current view on LinkedIn. Twitter is just a constant hype cycle. So like none of these things are perfect. Like honestly, Twitter is a constant hype cycle. But yeah, and I feel like LinkedIn is a little bit bipolar because yeah, it can be, but then I also see the opposite. I also see just extreme views and then a lot of gatekeeping, as you call it. I do want to talk about your YouTube channel as well. I was trying to think of like analogies for what I see on LinkedIn sometimes, and particularly around this like new dev world and people using AI for dev and a lot of people accept that it's going to become the thing, but not a lot of people do. And I think, okay, well, let's just think back in history. It's kind of like those who were riding on a horse and carriage when cars were arriving, and they're shouting, "Oh, it's much smoother here. It's much smoother on the horse and carriage." But they're watching the cars speed by them and get to their destination quicker. And by all accounts at that time, like there was a lot of like crashes and all this kind of stuff, like
Right.
so it wasn't perfect, but it was inevitable. It was inevitable that was going to be the way forward, and things improved and things got better, and safety and all that, roads improved, that kind of stuff. I mean, to me, that was the best analogy that I could think of for this new way of working, particularly with AI.
I think I think AI kind of has a PR problem in some sense. That I
Yeah,
think one of the worst things that happened to AI was mistakes getting labeled hallucinations. Because it makes it kind of gives this impression that it's unstable, kind of crazy, unreliable technology. And
yeah,
the thing about it is like, that as I said, like, like DeepSeek R1 is better at DAX and M than, any human at this point, I think. But
yeah.
it does occasionally just go off the rails. And
Mm, mm,
um, the interesting thing is you and I are both good at those languages too. And
mm.
we make mistakes, but when we make mistakes, nobody says, well, Sam hallucinated like crazy in that video. It's like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
it's not perfect, but I think the whole hallucination, label y- kind of makes it seem worse than it is. Um,
Mm, yeah.
although, there's on the flip side, occasionally, you know, I think, those of us who were kind of convinced in its incredibly high value, I think sometimes give it too much of a pass. And one of the things
Mm,
that I saw this week that kind of knocked me for a loop was, the one place that I see agents kind of working well is in this deep research mode,
mm, mm.
where, that it started off with I think it was OpenAI for the first deep research, and then
No,
Perplex.
it was actually Google had it. Google had it first.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yep.
Google, and then OpenAI had it in O1 Pro, and
Mm,
then Perplexity released theirs, and
mm,
Grok now has one, and
mm.
I found them really useful. That I will give them, tasks of saying, gather me a table of all the, input and output per million token costs.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that would take me a long time to do. But
Mm,
the interesting thing is, I saw a study this week that said, on average, 60% of deep research requests across the different programs produce incorrect citations. And
interesting.
it was Perplexity was the best in terms of, it was like
Mm,
mid 30s, and Grok was like mid 90s, in
wow.
terms of, almost every report is producing
Mm,
some incorrect citations. And
mm, mm.
that's something I think, that Ethan Mollick talked about it, which is that high performing people who, are good users of AI will get dragged down sometimes because they put too much faith in it and they get sloppy in terms of checking. And I will
Yeah.
say for the deep research stuff, that was definitely true of me. I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And I
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
stopped checking the citations. And
Mm, mm.
that article really brought it home that, you know, another reason why the agent model is still something to be quite skeptical of.
Yeah, look, I've similar views. I have yet to seen, like, I believe in I mean, I don't even like the word agent, but I believe in the concept. I think I can really see it making a huge dent in data analytics, particularly. That's going to be huge. But I've used these deep research products a lot, mainly the OpenAI one. Whenever I use this stuff, I just have a different view on it. Like I don't take anything at face value out of these things. Like I know that they're going to make mistakes. I know that deep research will make a mistake. But how is that any different to reading research historically, reading books? Like nothing to me, that's not different at all. Like I've read so many books with interesting takes over the years, but I mean, I don't agree with them. Some of them aren't even right. Like research historically when is it ever 100% right? Like a lot of it is just views. A lot of scientific research is kind of, isn't actually audited, So, there's a lot of, I just don't think you can take anything. Like you cannot take anything as 100% true. So I still like these tools though, because they really do actually spark. They spark things in your mind that might not have been sparked before. I remember one I did a couple of weeks ago where I was investigating. I really want to know how you could build a tool which helps novice developers monitor their websites, monitor their websites. And I was using it. I was like, can you tell me like what exists out there right now to do this? And it would go and do a big piece of research about it. It would then tell me, and then I would dig a little bit. I would try to dig a bit deeper, and I say, okay, what sets these apart? Like, what are their features that set them apart? Like, what are the main features that people care about? How would you build um, a an app like this that took 20% of the time but had 80% of the value that these guys these tools had? I don't read what that produce and think, that is the truth, the only truth out there. But it is of amazing value to me because it gives me a whole lot of ideas and a whole lot of sparks about how to actually do something when I would never have access to that research before. So that's kind of like my take on it. Like my take on it is it's still so valuable. It's still so valuable, but you can't rely on any of these things. You can't rely on anything. You can't rely on, everyone's got an incentive. Everyone's got like, different things that they're pushing.
Well, it kind of gets back to my point about, kind of how similar it is to managing people, which is
Mm,
that if you delegate work to, somebody on your team, it doesn't mean you're off the hook in terms of reviewing that and making sure that they've got it right. And if you obviate that responsibility, then you deserve what you get in terms of, somebody, high up saying, "Hey, I looked at this. This is wrong."
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like it's on you, it's not on them. And I kind of feel the same about AI is if you're not quality controlling what you get from AI and you're just taking it at face value,
Mm,
that's on you.
yeah, I agree. Um, the posts particularly online that I really roll my eyes at that I only really see on LinkedIn is and I don't know. I think Microsoft pushes like Microsoft product posts a lot, and I still see, oh, it got the stacks formula wrong, and it didn't know this stacks, and I'm just like, come on, man. Like we know that it gets stuff wrong now. Like it's kind of obvious that it gets stuff wrong, but when you weigh it all up, and the speed it can help you, the ability to solve, really complex things for you, using how much better the new models are, like those sort of things. I just roll my eyes, but you get some amazing responses from people about, I'm amazed by some of the people in the comments going, yep, yep, AI is terrible, yep, no, can't do it, can't help me. I have a feeling that you do exactly the same thing. I feel like you kind of roll your eyes a little bit too.
You know, I see that, and invariably, I just try to kind of politely and respectfully say, well, what model were you using? And the answer is almost always a free model.
Yeah.
It's like some,
Oh man.
LLM free model. And it's kind of like, okay, well, that's the result you're going to get,
Sure. Yeah.
that you generally don't get to use the peak tools for free. I mean, OpenRouter is really kind of the exception to that. But
Mm, mm.
for the most part, I think people, who are just kind of using, the OpenAI, free, you're getting GPT-4o, which is it's a decent model,
Yeah.
but it's not going to rival, the frontier stuff. And I think that
Mm.
that's true, for all of them. That you're not getting Claude 3.7 extended. And
No.
the thing I found is when you even using Claude 3.7, when you switch between normal and extended mode, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that just like thinks for longer.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's so that is why I think like LinkedIn feels bipolar to me because you've done like a categorical study that R1 pretty much knows can do anything in DAX. Like not 100% right, but can do even the most advanced things. I mean, even
Oh yeah.
on our last call, you said that it solved Greg Decker's thing that he spent days on in like 40 seconds.
Yeah. On the
Like
first shot.
first shot. and then you see other posts that get a lot of they go viral. Oh, didn't get that function right. Didn't get this one right. Oh, unreliable. It's like it's bipolar. It's totally bipolar. When in actual fact it can spit out like 30 formulas for you in like a minute.
Well, and the other thing is it's like what model are you using and how are you prompting it? Because the truth of the matter is if you're not prompting it properly and you're not giving it knowledge about the model, and we've talked about this, like I mean,
Yeah.
you can take the top expert in the world and you ask them a DAX question, but don't give them any information about what your data model looks like.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to be able to give you a useful answer.
It's totally true. That's what I'm trying to do with this power vibes, I've called it. Is you constantly feed it the model with a custom prompt that says look for time intelligence functions, look for categorical analysis, look for statistical analysis, and you just do this like over and over again. And so look, it's certainly not perfect. It's certainly not perfect, but that's kind of how I'm trying to automate a little bit. It would be good. It would be good to get your view on. I really want to get your eyes on it actually. Just to
I'd
just to
love to see it. I'd love to see
yeah, yeah.
it. One of the things I was playing with yesterday, and I don't have it down yet, but if you played with PBI tools, it's a way to basically do a lot of stuff at the command line, and that you can call it from within Python as a sub process.
Okay.
And what you can do is you can actually extract BIM files from it. You can create Power BI files from the BIM file. You can deploy
Mm.
stuff at the command line. Like it's a ridiculously powerful program, and
So this
it
is this is a new app that someone's built, or has it been around for a while?
it's been around for a bit.
Okay.
It's Matthias Tierbach,
Right.
and he's an MVP and very very smart guy, and
Mm.
this he's been putting this program out for a while, and it just came out with a new version, I think 1.2. And I was playing with it yesterday, and it's got a whole bunch of new features. And so if you're looking to automate your Power BI reports and pull BIM files and stuff, take a look at this because
Mm.
it's not the friendliest thing in the world. Like it's all command line stuff,
Mm.
but the documentation is quite good, and the power it has to it is incredible.
Mm. You know, I was, I don't know if something's changed in one of the latest versions of Power BI in particular, but I can't get the BIM file anymore. Like when I go in, I created a video about this a couple of weeks ago, where I go and save it as a project file, and then it splits it up, and then you can go and get the BI. That doesn't exist anymore. Like whenever I use a newer model, because I was trying to demonstrate this to someone the other day, and I don't know what's happened. I think they've changed something. Microsoft have changed something in it.
It's funny. The only ways I do it now, I don't use the project file is I wrote a DAX measure
Mm,
that can actually
yes.
using the info functions can
Yeah.
pull the root stuff you need. I've been using
Mm,
that. And then the other thing is Tabular Editor 2, the free version, just pulls the BIM file out like that. You open it up, you do file save as, and it creates a model.bim that's perfect. And it's
yeah, I
it's
need to I need
bloated.
to figure that out.
The
Mm,
BIM file is bloated, but you can easily throw it in a an AI like 4.0 and have it reduce that.
mm,
The
mm,
other thing
mm.
about reduction that I found really helpful is some of the models like Gemini 1.5, which I think is kind of a crap model. The one thing it has like a million input
The
token, like
context. Yeah,
a
yeah,
million
yeah,
input tokens. And so
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
can throw huge files at it, files
yeah,
that Claude will just choke on. And
yeah,
you can say, pull out the 10% of information that's most useful in this. And
yeah.
it's the only thing I use it for, but it's great for that.
Yeah, this is I think I talked about this last time, but this is the thing that excites me the most about like app development, right? Is that you can pick and choose what models you use for whatever thing you need it for, and you can layer different models into your own applications. This is what really excites me about potential within business, actually. There's a lot of quite complicated workflows in businesses where some of these models will be good and not so good at other things. And so that's how you can build your own custom app with different models to do different things. Um, that's where the real opportunity is. That's where a huge opportunity is that I'm really really excited about and trying to showcase more.
I think your post about kind of how all this stuff fits together has really been helpful. Like I started playing with Lovable, and that
Yeah.
that is just crazy.
So you
You
actually
know,
like it? You like it?
I do. I like it a
Yeah.
lot, and it's like
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing how far down the road it can get you.
Mm.
Just off a text prompt.
Yeah, it is. There's a little bit to learn, yes. Like, and you got to learn how like different things plug in together, but they make it 10 times easier. Like that, I've been
Yeah.
saying this for months now. I've been saying this for months. It's so funny. Like they're going to become $1 billion company. I have no doubt in my mind. And I was on their beta list. I used their beta thing when they just came out. I was on the wait list. I didn't even get charged the initial, and I sent them feedback. It was called something else, and now these guys are on track to become a unicorn. It's just like I think it's inevitable at this point. Like crazy, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it's funny because you know the conversation we had the last time it ended up costing me, $60 a month now, because it's like I've got Windsurf, I've got Lovable, I've got Supabase. Um, I haven't subscribed to Netify yet, but
Yeah,
it's kind
yeah,
of like that's where I'm getting, if I hadn't found that use for O1 Pro, it's like I would fund all this by dropping,
yeah.
dropping
Well,
the
it isn't that just so funny, like because everyone's calling the end of SaaS, and then you've just like, and same with me. Like I'm just using all these new tools. I have all these new subscriptions. I'm doing all this new stuff. Like this is the golden age for these companies. Like this is the
yeah.
absolute golden age. You should see some of the charts. Superbase put out charts of how they're performing, and they're just because of the integrations that they have into these tools, because they are also integrated into Bolt. If you Bolt is another tool. It's like vertical, like they were growing, boom, straight up. It's amazing. It's amazing the virality of these tools and how well they're going.
The one that people really, it seems like the OpenRouter crowd really likes this Klein. The thing that's interesting is, you know, as I was thinking, it's like we're already, at over an hour.
Yeah.
And I actually think for, as this topic goes, it's been a slow 2 weeks. That it's like there really hasn't been anything that's dropped in the last 2 weeks that you're like, oh wow, that's gonna change things. And that's actually unusual now. Like I was kind of thinking this is a quote slow 2 weeks. That Manus has really been the only thing that I've seen pop out that has really kind of popped in terms of
Mm,
potential and attention. But I
yeah.
feel like we're just the law of averages says the next 2 weeks is going to be crazy. That I think
Yeah.
that anytime now, I kind of feel like GPT-5 could drop, and if that's built on the 4.5 foundation, that's probably going to be spectacular.
Yeah. But we've talked about this for a while now, is that I just don't think it's going to matter that much anymore. Like I see more now than ever. I kind of see the direction where this is going. It's just going to empower, like whatever model comes out, however good it is, it's just going to empower more of what is going on even now. You know, um, like I think the direction of where these things is going is kind of set for the next few years. Like yes, it's just going to continue to democratize every little thing, and it's going to, I just don't like when AI first came out, everyone was like, holy crap, what is this going to do to everything? Like, what is this going to do to my job? What is this going to do to my company? But now it sort of, to me, it feels like, yes, okay, this is a thing. It's obviously a big thing, but the direction in terms of where this is going is not going to be um, uh, it's not going to change too much from here. Like, well, if a better model comes out, it's just going to empower more things. It's going to empower more things quicker than what we've done in the past. Um, anyway, that's how I see it. That's how I see it. How I see it. A better model. How much more marginal change are we going to see from a better model
Yeah.
at this point? But AGI comes out by the end of the year. How much marginal change are we going to see in reality? Like, I don't think much. I honestly don't. I just think the trajectory we're on is just going to continue. And it's an exciting one. It's a really exciting trajectory.
It is. It is. It was interesting. I just saw Ethan Mollick post something today that said, if we stopped all development, we would still have 10 years of
Easy, easily. Yep.
innovation that came out of kind of what's been developed to date. And, I
I
think
totally
that,
agree. Totally agree.
yeah.
Yeah, couldn't agree more on that. Yeah. Um, hey, I do want to. You've started your own YouTube channel, which is awesome, and I see that, obviously, which is no surprise. Huge support on social. How's that all going?
It's been fun. I got to say that, I kind of put it off for a long time because you know, when it comes down to developing new content or, spending, a week, kind of building the infrastructure, to, with the banners and
Mm, mm.
the thumbnails and, kind of organizing your past videos. Like I've got, yeah, subsequent to when, I was posting with the expert team on the Enterprise DNA site,
Yep.
I've got over 100 videos. And so, just getting those organized and, kind of updated and, it's just a
Mm,
lot of work, but it's been really fun and really, really rewarding to see, the good response it's gotten. And, again, going
mm.
back to the, the LinkedIn community, I posted on the first day and said, hey, if my content's been helpful to you, you know, would you mind, jumping over there and subscribing? And, you know, overnight, I had like 300 on the first night.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah.
I think it's up to like 500 now.
Yeah.
And I'm really enjoying, that I'm finding I'm more inclined to make videos knowing that they're not going to be temporary. Like with LinkedIn, the posts are still there from a year ago, but once you get past about 3 months, it gets very hard to search for
Mm,
anything. And that's
yeah.
why
Yeah.
I kind of pull everything into Obsidian so I can still find stuff. And it's really nice, having stuff that is still, that I did a year ago that's still highly relevant,
Mm,
that
mm.
now has kind of a permanent home. So yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. And I'm kind of looking to, kind of poll the community in terms of like the people and it's something I'd love to talk to you about, which is the people who've been doing YouTube for a long time. Like, what are the things you wish you'd known? Because
Yeah.
you, despite it being really involved in the data community, this being new to me, it's like I realize there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know.
I've been doing YouTube for like 8 years now, and
Yeah.
I posted a lot more historically than I do now, and and in terms of my energy level around it, it's been like this. It's been like this. I mean, you probably remember because as soon as you get into YouTube, you then see the analytics, and then you're like, oh, analytics. I could optimize here. I could optimize my thumbnails. I could optimize what videos I put out. I could build videos based on what people are searching. As soon as it went formulaic, as soon as it became formulaic, my energy for YouTube just evaporated. It just totally evaporated. It's kind of like creating, like I think that is the better way to do it. Just vibe create, just do what you want, do what you enjoy. Because every time I've thought, oh, let's try and look at the analytics and how can we boost our analytics. It's exactly the same on social media, by the way. But I know I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it, and I put out crap content. It's not as good as like content that I really believe in. I really enjoy talking about. I think you got to stay true to that. You really do. Just don't even get caught up because at the end of the day, like I think that's what people like the best anyway. Like in reality, like there'll be all these gurus and all these things that you read. You'll get told by the AI to do this, and this, but that's just it sucks the life out of you. It really does, and that's why I think your content does amazing online because it's really authentic. It's really deep. It's really it's not like you feel like you need to put out a video every single day. It's like you're just doing it because it's interesting. Something's come up and you're like really interested in it. You want to dive deep into it and you're just telling people about it. Like to me, that's the biggest learning I've had over time. And I'm trying to get back to that more and more, actually.
It's a great point because I I got to that point with the LinkedIn post, which is I was subscribing to, Shield, which is a great analytics engine. You can dive really, really deep. And I was doing statistical analysis and I was,
Mm,
really trying to optimize, views and interactions. And
Mm.
I just got so tired of it. It's like it tells you,
Mm.
here are the days you should post, here are the times you should post, and here's
Yeah.
what you should post on, and here's the way to determine kind of what's hot. And I just
Yeah.
got to the point where it's like I see a lot of people who get on and start posting and post like a month or two of tremendous content, and then they
Mm.
just disappear, because it just
Mm.
they burn out. And what
Mm.
I've always told people is, when people asked about kind of building on LinkedIn,
Mm.
that my advice is don't pay any attention to any of that. That I actually I wish I'd just let my Shield subscription run and put that 250 bucks somewhere else, because I don't even look at it anymore.
Mm.
That it's like some posts do well, some don't. Some that I'm almost at the point of not posting, like have been viral,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you just it's kind of like YouTube. It's like make the content that you would want to watch. You
Yeah.
know,
Totally.
be authentic and kind of trust that people. I always say people will, great content always finds its audience. I know for the some of the stuff you've been doing, that it's taken a while to take off, because I think you were ahead of a lot of people, myself included, that it's taken me a while to kind of get my head around these tools and kind of what can be done with them. But
Mm.
I think you've stayed true to it. You said, hey, this is important and it's going to be a big deal and I'm going to keep posting about it. And I
Yeah.
think you're starting to see, okay, people are catching up. And I've seen some of the posts you did about Lovable,
Yeah.
that has really developed legs, and
Mm.
it's getting a lot of discussion. And I found the same things with things like M code. I used to post about M and just get crickets. They were always my lowest rated posts. And now,
Mm.
now there's a dependable community around that. And so I think, as you say, just kind of being true to what you're passionate about,
Mm.
will find its audience. And it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be, 100,000, views, or,
Mm.
I remember my first post, it got 23 views and 3 likes. And I thought, that's awesome. It's like, how
Yeah.
many times do you get to, speak, kind of in detail to, 20, 30 people. And if three
Mm.
people come up to you afterward and say, hey, that was really good. If
Yeah.
that happens, like that's a good day.
Yeah, couple of really interesting insights I want to get into based on what you just went over because it's so true, so true. Interesting thing about my post, like when you're known for something for so long, as I think both of us really are, like we've been big in Power BI and stuff and Microsoft Universe for a long time, and you try to break out. You're like, oh, I'm going to lose my audience because I'm talking about something else. It's hard. It's not actually that easy to do that. And I'm sure everyone faces this if they want to sort of break out. But I'll tell you, I get more private messages about opportunities with these new low code dev tools than I've got over the last few years around Power BI. So and I'm probably talking to a much smaller audience. I'm just talking very passionately. I'm talking very openly about how to do it. And so yeah, it's okay. Like some of my posts don't go very well, and I just don't even care anymore. I don't even care. I'm talking about something that I think is going to be big. I think it's something I'm really into. I really enjoy learning. I'm in a good, like, really creative place with it. I see this is where things are going. And sometimes you just got to do that. You've actually just got to be true, and you're better off. You're better off doing that rather than sticking to some formulaic approach that a lot of people say. A lot of gurus tell you to do because it never ends well, and it doesn't end well mentally or um, you know. So that's one insight. The other insight I had, which I think is very very interesting and maybe somewhat controversial in the data space, is that it's funny how we both just talked about how analytic, we've always been about, oh, analytics is just it's so crucial to analyze everything. It's just so important. And a lot of people buy into this, and that's what big data was all about. But when you actually come down to it, you realize, analyzing everything actually doesn't help you. it doesn't actually help you all the time. Sometimes you're better off analyzing less. You honestly are, because you get drawn into doing stupid stuff, if you overanalyze. It's and we're in the analytics game. And so that is one of the things that, we both basically just said that, but that's me circling back on that point.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately because we're both, I know, huge fans of AI Explained, the YouTube channel.
Yes, yes,
And
yep, yep,
I think Philip, the guy who does that channel, I think he's phenomenal. And
yep.
I don't know if you subscribe to his Patreon, but
No.
he does these podcasts on there that are more just kind of him talking about his process and stuff. And he actually said, talk about people asking me, do you read the comments on your videos? And he's like, I do, but he's like, I probably shouldn't. And he said, it's not that people are harsh or kind of disrespectful. He said, occasionally that'll be true, but he said the thing about it is that by reading that stuff, you get biased, and if people say, oh, you should really do this, you start thinking, well, maybe I should. And or they like a certain thing, and that's not bad. But if you're just responding to your audience, I think you're kind of losing part of yourself.
It's so true. It's so true. Ugh, okay, God, I've got so many anecdotes around that. It's if you go and read any business book, or you go and get advice from anyone, they'll always be like, listen to your users, listen to and my own personal experience of that, because I've done a bit of that over time. My own personal experience is 50% of the time listening to my users is pointless. 50% of the time it is good. And so it really cancels each other out. Like, you're better off just doing stuff that you believe in, in a lot of cases, or that just makes sense to you. Like, I think both of us, Enterprise DNA, there was content that people asked for, but then when you go look at the stats, like, no one has watched this stuff, like, no one. And so we spent money on it, we spent time on it, like, so
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to curation, there's so much information out there
yeah.
that, I really I've really come to value the concept of curation. In terms of myself, when I see people say, oh, LinkedIn is just a bunch of, influencers trying to sell you stuff. It's like, well, if you let your feed be like that, it will be. But
Mm.
if you curate it tightly, I mean, I can't keep up with the quality of technical content that I get, daily through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's because I've kept my feed really tightly curated. And
Mm.
that you don't want to screen out, kind of dissenting views, because I think you can develop kind of an echo chamber. But, I
Mm.
find with like the comments on, my posts that, there are certain people who I see pop up, and I know they're going to challenge stuff that I write, but in a really good way. And, I
Mm.
learn a ton from their comments. And, I think
Mm.
it's kind of the same thing. It's like, curating what you listen to, but being aware that by doing that, you can sometimes get overly narrow and kind of echo chambery. But if
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
avoid that trap, you can really focus on the stuff that's productive. And
Yeah.
it's a balancing act. It's kind of, we joke in Power BI that the correct answer to everything is it depends. And I think that's true, for pretty much everything. There aren't clear-cut answers that, it's kind of like, should you read your comments? Well, you should read the good ones.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the positive ones, but the ones that, really give good constructive feedback. And, I want to shout out, something that I saw this week. Dave Johnston, on LinkedIn, is
Mm.
one of the most knowledgeable, like well-read people, just generally, about data and technology, but just in general. And he
Mm.
started, a weekly newsletter where he just shouts out the stuff that he's come across that's good. And,
Mm. Mm.
he's one of those people who, if he says it's good, I'm reading it. And
And
I kind
that's
of,
it. That's actually, that's what you want to be online, right? Like, I think, you want to be one of those people. That's the best
yeah.
place to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like if you fill your feed with those kinds of people, it's like you're going to get way smarter,
Mm,
that
mm, mm,
by reading good stuff and kind of paying attention to the people who are reading and shouting out good stuff,
mm,
it really makes a difference. Another guy, Mark Endicott, who, he does the data dissemination. He's taken a little bit of a break, but his stuff is great. And so,
mm,
kind of finding and promoting these great curators is something I really like to do because I benefit hugely from
mm.
from their work.
Yeah. Just another anecdote off the back of sort of your YouTube question about like how to do it. I'll just tell you like exactly the same with how I feel about YouTube is how I felt about business and just trying, being an entrepreneur and trying to do my own thing for the last like little while. As soon as I've become formulaic in almost anything, like because in business you can get formulaic about so much data. You can be like
Yeah.
you can get hung up on churn, you can get hung up on how many people are watching our like the content on our platform. You can get hung up about comments online. You can get hung up about someone calling in and saying, I want a refund. Like there's so many things that you can get formulaic about. And if I remember the times that I've enjoyed it the most, I've just done what I've enjoyed and I've really talked passionately about it. I've tried to inspire people around specific things. And I know I haven't done that like every month of every year, as good as others, but then there has been times where I've done it well. And that's where I want to, I've got to try stay in that place as much as I possibly can. And that's where I'm trying to be right now. I'm trying to be in a place where I really enjoy it. I see an opportunity, a really big opportunity. And I've got to just, I've got to be out there telling people and inspiring people around it and not worry about, okay, this person, this corporate came in and said, oh, I don't, like we had a corporate who said, I didn't like this course or something, and they're a small corporate and they left, and I was like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? I can't. There's no way for me to really fix that, but I can talk passionately about things I believe in, and so
Right.
that's what I'm trying to stay true to for the next for as long as I can, really. After all my learnings over the years, that's what I'm really trying to do.
Well, yeah, one of the things that I've learned over time is if you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing no one.
Yeah,
And that
really.
if you just kind of have a if you have a vision for what you're trying to do, it's like some people are not going to be on board with that, and that's fine. It's like, I make content that some people just are going to say it's too much. I don't want to watch 14 minutes of video. I want to
Mm,
watch a 90-second video. I can learn something useful. And I'm like, hey, no offense.
mm.
It's kind of like there are people, and I'll tell you the people who make that sort of content that I think are good. It's like if that's what you're
That
looking for,
Brian, they'd rather see you dance on TikTok. That's what they're saying.
that that ain't happening. Um, but it's like, I think kind of being authentic in terms of saying, this is what I do. And
Yeah,
if people dig it, that's awesome. And if they don't, I don't take any offense to that,
yeah.
that it's nothing's for everybody.
It's so true. It's so true. Like, I mean, I get a lot of pushback. I read something the other day, saying that I'm pushing something too much, and like I don't see it, and it's not reality. I'm like, okay, fine. That's just well, I'm just gonna show you. I'm just gonna show you. I'm not even gonna debate this. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna show you, and
Yeah.
you know, you just can't win over everyone. Like honestly, I mean, you saw it in the business too. Like you just cannot keep everyone happy. But if you're just passionate about what you're talking about on YouTube, like that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Don't do
Yeah.
anything else other than just be passionate about it.
Well, and I'm sure you get the same thing, which is you also get the people who you're like, well, I've never even heard from this person before, and they'll tell you, hey, this was amazing. Like this
Yeah,
really helped me. It
yeah,
solved a problem that I had today. It helped me pass certification. I have people say, hey, your stuff helped me get a new job. And it's
yeah.
like, that's awesome. Like, there's nothing better than hearing that. I was talking to a friend who, is really not in a great place, with his job. And, I was thinking, man, it's like, it sucks to live your life not enjoying your work.
Mm,
And, to the extent that, we can both, help people kind of find the thing they love to do, it's like, there's
mm.
nothing better than that.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true, and yeah, I'm no doubt you've helped a lot of people. That's why you're so popular on LinkedIn.
But and I will say, just kind of shouting out to you that you really helped me find that, and it's like to the extent that I've kind of found that niche, you were a big part of that.
I think you talk me up more than I actually am. But anyway, well, when I first got into Power BI, like this is a bit of a story. I was so passionate about it. And I knew it was big. I knew it was going to be a big deal. I had a lot of reasons in my mind. Not everyone believed it, by the way. Honestly, the amount of it's not as bad as it is now about AI, but the amount of meetings I used to be in where people were like, "Oh, why do I even need this? Like, this isn't even
Yeah.
this." Honestly, it's exactly the same thing, but just magnified right now. But I believed it. I truly believed it, and that came across. It came across in all of our content, and I think that's why we've had a bit of sustainability over the years, right? Um, but if I'm being honest, like over time, I got a little bit less inspired about it. Probably because doing the same thing over and over again for years and years and years, like teaching people how to like create a DAX formula, it does get a bit dry. It does get a bit dry after a while. I'm not a robot, and so that's why this new sort of wave is, and also there was this big change at Microsoft starting with the letter F, which I really dislike immensely. So that plummeted the interest a lot as well, and so even though I still love Power BI and it's incredibly powerful. But this new wave has invigorated me more. It has invigorated me. Like I feel like there's so much for me to learn. There's so much for me to do. There's so much for me to inspire, like empower people about. There's so much cool stuff that we could do as a business. So like, even though it's very, very different, very different to what we did in the past, I feel very confident in the direction, even though I know we're probably missing some sales, and some people are probably like, oh, what is he doing? I just don't even care. I don't even care. I truly believe. And if we as a business have to go through a bit of a lull before going up again, I'm actually like fully okay with that. Like I honestly am. Because I just know that there's better things in the future if we just like keep going on this path. Like that's how I've sort of
Yeah.
you know look, I didn't come to this conclusion, as like in a day. Like it's been like there's been a lot of like disruption over the last few years, but that's where I'm at, and much better place than the last couple of years anyway.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, which is even even if you're the one making the content, you always have to feel like you're learning. Like
Yeah.
if I'm making content that isn't helping me learn, I've got no motivation for it. Yeah. And the
Mm,
interesting thing is what I found is I'm actually working on one tonight that's about, kind of the basics of pivoting data in Power Query.
mm,
And it's one of those things, it seems like such a beginner topic, but the more I dove into it, the more I thought, wow, there's some there's some really interesting concepts here, and kind of why
mm,
when I was first learning it was kind of why is my pivot blowing up? And there's some there's depth in that topic. And as I was
mm,
making the video, I was kind of like, I don't do a lot of beginner videos, but this was one I kind of struggled with as a beginner. And I thought,
mm,
okay, I think this will be helpful to people. And the more I dug in, the more I realized like this is a deep topic. And I ended up doing, some research and learning some stuff from it. And so,
mm,
even the topics you think it's like there's learning to be had there. And it's been fun for the YouTube channel because what I've been doing is going back and posting some of my old videos that are still timely and relevant. And a lot of it is from that period that you talked about when we were like, Power BI is the greatest thing we've ever seen, and
yeah.
it's like we were learning, and it's like, cool things you can do with drill down, cool things you can do with DAX, and controlling your user interface. And
Yeah.
it's fun to watch kind of the enthusiasm I had for that stuff early on, that I won't say I've lost, but it's become less of a learning experience for me. And so, the things
Mm,
I'm excited about, I think it's exactly what you're experiencing, which is the newness of AI and stuff. is super exciting. And every
Yeah.
day you learn something. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's coming through. And it's, as I say, it's been fun going back and seeing that spark in, kind of my older stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And look, and there's a like, and honestly, there's a new generation online who are doing a lot of that stuff,
Yeah.
um, and they're doing incredibly well. Probably even better than maybe what we were doing. It's hard to judge. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but that's I'm okay. I'm okay with it because I'm just much happier. Much happier creating content that I'm just like loving, like absolutely loving, like living.
Yeah.
Living and breathing. I'll wake up in the morning. I'll come downstairs. I'll be working on like apps during the day. I'll create a bit of content, write something on social media. Like I love my day. I love my day right now, rather than dealing with just things that just don't invigorate you.
Yeah.
Awesome chat as usual, as usual. I really want to show you power vibes, by the way. So I might have to create a little Loom video for you or something, just to
Yeah.
show me
Yeah.
show
Love
me
to
where
see
I'm
it.
at.
Love to see it.
And I might even do a progress update on social media. We'll see. We'll see. I'll just like I'll just build in public. I'll show everyone where I'm at. I'll show them all the pros, all the cons. And then
I'm a huge fan of that build in public idea. Yeah.
yeah, it is good. It is good. It is good. Just got to make sure you don't share your API keys.
Yeah. Well, that's why I stick everything in environment variables now, because
Yeah, yeah,
if you
totally,
do
totally.
that,
I do
then
as well. I do as well.
you're just calling.
These are the little things that is a business opportunity. It's like an opportunity to you'd be amazed. I think what's going on out there, like in terms of what's happening with the novices. Me being one of them. Okay, good stuff. Let's round off,
Yeah, I
and
really enjoyed it, Sam, as always.
I'm sure this will get good vibes as well from the community. So hopefully others enjoy it too.
I hope so. Yeah. And I think this 2 week cadence is good because I think
Yeah.
it's kind of like there's enough new stuff that happens every 2 weeks that there's a lot to talk about, but it's not
Mm,
so long that, the by that point, some of the stuff is already out of
totally.
date, so
Yeah.
you know, we'll see how it goes, but I really like the rhythm of this.
Yeah. Well, we just can't make it formulaic. We just got to continue to be a vibecast.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think I think you're right. I think you're right. But who knows? We could go viral, Brian. We could go viral, and people might really love us that much, like the All In podcast. And we might have to do more. We'll see. We'll see.
But yeah, I just enjoy it for what it is, and if it catches on, great. But
It's so true. Like, y- I would even go as far to say that a lot of these businesses that are going viral, you know, it's just like perfect timing, perfect product. Like none of this can be planned. Like you never know. You never know, right? Like that's just the way of the beast. Like the online like ecosystem at the moment with like social media and stuff. So you just never know.
yeah, I think so. You just kind of catch lightning in a bottle at the right time.
I'm seeing it like every day, every day.
Yeah.
That's just how the media landscape works these days, or like just like a lot of the distribution sort of happens. Okay, I gotta run.
All
Good
right.
chat. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks,
Talk to you
Sam.
soon.
Talk to you soon.
See you later. Bye.